Have a story to tell? I believe you. Ghost, cryptids, the unknown. Let's talk about it. This is My GhostCast.
Hey guys, welcome back to My GhostCast. Your host Rez. Today we have Bryan Garner and Ghost Chino. All right,
Ghost
guys.
Chino.
All right, Bryan. I think Ghost Chino had a question for you.
Yeah, if Bryan could touch a little bit on what he specializes in and just fill us in a little bit about that, that would be great.
Sure. So in the magical community, what I'm most known for is ceremonial magic, or more specifically, the arts of evocation within the realm of conjuring spirits or bringing spirits to visible and auditory appearance. There's a section that's been fairly recently coined Solomonic magic. And Solomonic magic is a process, or basically technologies for conjuring and binding spirits, not only to do your will and grant various services, but also to gain knowledge and to learn various things. This is a technology that is found as far back as ancient Egypt, and we have quite a few remnants of writing and a process on how to do this. But through the Apocrypha of the Testament of Solomon, Solomon became the kind of ideal and archetypical magician, one who is able to bind demons and specifically to get them to do things. There's lore about King Solomon binding demons to actually make the second temple. So through this, you have a process or a technology that transfers cultures and religions, not to mention geographic location. And Solomonic magic is most known for the grimoires or book of magic or spirit conjuring that you find throughout Europe, that has a very heavily Catholic liturgy structure to it. And the reason for this being is undoubtedly the people who had access to books to begin with, not to mention magical books, but who could read and could also write and transcribe, were the clergy, and minor to major holy orders. They were the ones that had the access to this, and a lot of the process, the vestments, so on and so forth, the paraphernalia. There's a lot of use of holy water or even blessing things during a mass. These kind of things, they're very heavily Catholic, and this is what we have surviving is actually the classical books of magic. So there's still quite a few people that are unfamiliar that the wizards or the magicians of antiquity, the reality is that they were priests or of minor holy orders, such as the exorcists. There's several Solomonic books of magic that actually refer to the magus as the exorcist directly, and the process of binding certain these spirits is a technology and liturgy for exorcism. So that's the arts that I became most familiar with, and I'm known for going through these books of magic and seeing if I can replicate the experiments exactly as they're written, without substituting materials, without substituting the process, but actually following the recipe exactly as it's written in these books of magic. So it's been something that I've been involved in for quite a number of years, about a little over 20 years now. And the findings have been well worth it in replicating these experiments of conjuring various spirits. Very dangerous, that some people see, and some of these spirits, there's some that I won't work with. And even some of the other ones, it is definitely a process of caution. But more than trying to get something, it's been a quest for knowledge and trying to understand not only the magical processes and how they work, but also the spirits themselves and what they have to say on their behalf, and if there's something to learn, what I can learn from them. And it's been very insightful. It's something that has held my interest for these many years, and I've seen some incredible things and learned some incredible things as well. I'm most known for the art of drawing spirits into crystals, which is a process of conjuring the 7 planetary archangels, familiar ones being like Archangel Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, but there's others that have been associated with these heavenly spheres or planetary bodies. And I'm also known for reproducing and doing experiments from the Lemegtons Goetia, or the Goetia, and the 72 spirits, and working with a number of those in the classical sense. And that's pretty much my background for that in a nutshell.
You talked about the planetary, how do you say the planetary Archangel? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always had a fascination with Michael. I used to have weird dreams, and I was like, okay, this is man-made, of course, version of what I see. But always drawn that direction. Is there anything you can kind of tell us about that one in particular?
Archangel Michael is an extremely powerful archangel. It was incidentally one of the first ones. If I'd gone back, I might have not have started with that particular archangel with my scryer and I, but the timing kind of moved us to do that, and it was a bit overwhelming. The thing about archangels and even the entity of Michael is that there's a lot of evidence of the being transcending religious bodies and religious times, even though it upholds and supports, but even predating Judaism. And then it's definitely an archangel for Judaism, and then for Christianity, Catholicism. This archangels, we conjure in the aspects in Grimoire tradition or magical tradition. There's a swap between Archangel Raphael and Michael between the sun and the planet Mercury. There's a lot of debate on that, but we conjured Michael from the aspects of the sun, of the solar realm, and it appeared as a mighty warrior angel. It had a lion type armor, lion head kind of helmet, and sword, was very, very fierce. My scryer described the archangels as very stern, but still very powerful and loving at the same time. Just this immense compassion, and asked the archangel various questions about the nature of divinity, of its relationship to people, about demons, and a lot of the answers were very different than the answers that we receive in Sunday school, that we receive, kind of in the lore that we get handed down from our religious backgrounds. Because according to Michael and what was relayed back, we asked about demons, and the archangels replied that my father loves them with the same intensity and immensity that he has for me. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, it basically went on to be like, yeah, when you've got something all pervasive and all powerful, there's no anger, there's no hatred of something like that. There was understanding that these demons and stuff were very harmful for people, and that they in themselves had this struggle and this kind of purpose. But for the Almighty, for the Father, in the case of what we heard, there's no challenge, there's no real place for hate. It already knows everything. I think there's a mention from that archangel that it's aware of every grain of sand that can be found in totality and everything. There's nothing beyond it. So there's not anything that anger and hatred, I think, has to come from we try to understand things from a human point of view, which is limited, and it usually comes from fear or not knowing or not trusting something or not having the fullness of view. But if you have the fullness of view, some of these human type, emotions and stuff, I started to see they don't really make sense for an all creator, but it becomes difficult, I think, for us because we can only a lot of times relate to something that's human. And that's the same thing for the angel, is they're not people. They've never been people. They describe themselves as being extensions from the source and from the one, and they would use a lot of analogies like being strings on a cosmic instrument, and when the Father plucks them, they reverberate, they respond in kind. That's what they do. And those notes, reverberation is what they act on their purpose. So some very just amazing responses. Nothing was a simple yes or no. Everything was in depth to what these questions that we asked of the angel, and went into quite a few topics, and it was really fascinating. The Archangel Michael was also adamant that people do the work themselves, that he and some other angels, they can assist, but he was very adamant that people need to do their work first. And I guess there was kind of an accountability or responsibility before just calling on them to intervene on some things. And I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. Now I'm all like, okay, who do I ask about next?